your questions and diving a little deeper. This is the Midweek Rewind.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Midweek Rewind. We are back after a quick little break last week when Pastor Brent was gone. So thank you again to those of you who are with us live, or if you're watching or listening later, grateful to have you with us as well. So thank you for joining us. Got a fun topic today we'll dive into here in just a second. But Brent, welcome back. How are you, man?
Doing great. Back in the land of Oz here.
Yes.
Been out of state and made it safely to visit our kids in Orlando, and they're doing great. We missed the grandkids. I played a lot of Barbie and Legos with the grandkids, but they're doing great. It's good to be back.
Awesome. You and I were just talking. I mean, last Thursday, you just missed the Midweek Rewind so much. I'm sure you couldn't sleep the night before. You just missed this so much. So we're back. We're back with the Midweek Rewind. So well, I'm glad you had a fun trip, Brent, and welcome back. And we last week, we actually pre-recorded your sermon early, and we wrapped up the spoiler alert series. We got a fun series coming up this week. Maybe we'll talk about here towards the end of our show today here. But today, I want to dive into the new heaven and the new earth, Brent. That's what you talked about last week. And again, I think it's a fun topic that a lot of us, we have way more questions than we have answers, but it's a fun topic. So, hey, if you're watching live, we'd love to answer any questions you might have. So jot them in the comments. We'll keep an eye on that. We'd love to hear from you. So, Brent, you actually started the sermon. I'm looking at your notes here, and you said that your understanding of the new heaven and the new earth might be a little bit different from what people think in their minds when they think of heaven or what they were taught growing up. So let's start off with the recap. Why don't you give us a recap of Sunday and your understanding of what Revelation means with the new heaven and the new earth?
Yeah, we tend to think, I'll start here, Matt. We tend to think that heaven and earth are in two different locations. They currently are. There is a divide between our broken, current, sin-filled world and the perfect heaven. What is the first hurdle for some is in Revelation 21, where it says, I saw a new heaven and new earth. And we think those are two locations, but with sin, I said, fully and finally and forever defeated, there's no more gap between heaven and earth. So the new heaven, which currently is the dwelling place of God. Mm-hmm. All the saints of old are now in that place, wherever it is, in whatever dimension. But at the point of new heaven and new earth, there's no more gap. It's one place, because in Revelation 21 it says that now the dwelling of God is with man. And so now it's one place. So the new heaven and new earth is one location. That leads us to the second question. Where is it? Mm-hmm. My thought,
where is it?
For what it's worth, is it is here on this planet, this current earth. And the way I get there is to see the whole Bible narrative, Matt, from Genesis and the Garden of Eden, which was life as it was created to be, corrupted by sin. Between Genesis 3 and Revelation 21, it's all about restoring and getting us back to the first starting point. And so I believe that the new heaven and new earth is essentially the Garden of Eden restored. It's this planet. It's very interesting. In Revelation 21, it describes a river, a tree of life. Hey, sounds like the Garden of Eden. And that we are going to be restored to that original place. So in my mind, we are going to have Philippians 3:21, new bodies like Jesus' glorious body. Philippians 3:21, Philippians 3:21. We are going to have like Jesus' resurrected bodies. There will be a physical aspect to it, the five senses. And that requires a physical planet or place. It can't be simply a spiritual dimension. So I've come to believe that the new heaven and new earth are one place. It's here, this planet restored, all corruption taken out. And then there's this new Jerusalem. And that is what I see as the church building.
Hmm.
It's this massive 1,400 mile cubed, 1,400 miles wide, long, and high. Lots of symbolism with the 12,000 stadia, which is the 12 number, 12 gates, 12 foundations. The width of the walls are 144 cubits, divisible by 12, 200 feet thick. So this is a massive building, and the number of 12 is meant to include the 12 tribes of Israel, all of God's people. So as I see it, we are going to live perfectly for God's glory. Our job is to please him here, and it's to please him there. Colossians 3:17, do all things for his glory. We're going to work just like they did in the Garden of Eden, but without sweat or toil. We are going to enjoy this planet. I think if there are 1,000 colors here, there are 1,000,000 colors on the new earth, new heaven, one place. There will be waterfalls that'll be 100 times bigger and prettier. There'll be deserts and seas and oceans and rivers and mountains, and we're going to enjoy playing and interacting, working without. We're going to keep this planet going. I think we're going to have to eat. We're going to have to plant crops. We're going to have to harvest them. But again, everything without any corruption, no stress. We all have stress at our work, Matt. So we're going to work this planet, live, eat. I think we're going to play cards together. We're going to take walks and go on cruises and enjoy. And like I mentioned on Sunday, there'll be people whose love language is serving, and they want to serve. And they're going to be the cooks, and they're just going to have a great time on the cruise ship. Another time they'll be the, people on the cruise ship, others cooking. We're just going to enjoy life. Now, this new Jerusalem with the 12 gates is where the Lamb on his throne sits. Jesus, God. There's no lamp. There's not a single light switch in this 12,000 or 1,400 square miled place, because Jesus and God Almighty are its lamp. That's where we're going to go in and out and worship. We will live perfectly in worship to God all the time. But I think we're going to enjoy what we would call corporate worship, singing, worshiping. But it's just going to be life on earth here without any corruption. Relationship, personality, emotion, all positive. It's going to be the dream, Matt.
Yep.
Forever.
Well, I think, Brent, you referenced this on Sunday, and you and I were talking this morning. Somehow in our, I don't know if it's the Sunday school thing that we all grew up in, or if it's just kind of some kind of the past hundreds or thousands of years, where we get this image of heaven where we're up in robes in the clouds playing harps and singing, right? Like if you ask me to picture heaven, for some reason, that's what our culture has created, right? This in the sky, everything's white and clean and perfect, and we're worshiping God. Like that's what I think most Americans think of when you think of heaven. But you're saying it's actually going to look more like this than that. Like we'll be physical beings. We're probably going to still inhabit some kind of earth that looks remotely similar to where we currently live. And you brought up the point on Sunday that our purpose, I'll forget the verse, it's in here somewhere, you probably know.
2 Corinthians 5:9.
Thank you. We're created to worship God. And so like we have this, we're created to do the same job while we're alive and while we're in heaven. So heaven might look more like this on the best day times 100 than us singing in a choir in robes and harps up in the clouds, right? Is that how you're seeing this?
Yeah, God at his core is relational, and he created Adam and Eve to live in perfect, joy-filled, uncorrupted relationship between them and God. Right. That's how life was created. He gave them choice, because without choice, there's no meaningful relationship. And he took that risk, and it's opened Pandora's box for us. But he is all about restoring his creation to his original intent. And so it's rooted in relationship. I think it's rooted in diversity. In Revelation, it says every tribe and nation and people and tongue.
Yep.
God is the king of creativity. I
Mhm.
mean, this earth with all its, topography, its different landscapes, its oceans and rivers, he just is at his core a genius at creativity. That's going to
Mhm.
continue. Relationship, communication, fulfillment, joy, uh, diversity. It's
Mhm.
going to be. So, Matt, we were talking earlier that there are times when you're sitting with your beautiful wife, Tilly, and your beautiful daughter, Heidi, and there's laughter. Heidi does whatever you tell her to do.
Happens once a month.
But that's what we call a little heaven on earth. At that moment, when you and Tilly are full of such joy, your relationship, there's nothing hidden. It's heaven on earth.
Mhm. Yep.
That times a thousand is what eternity is going to be like.
Mhm.
Relationship uncorrupted.
Yeah. Yep. And,
So there's
I've heard people say, I think they were kind of kidding, but whenever we see pictures of heaven in Revelation or elsewhere, it usually is all of us singing praise to God. Like that's kind of what we see. And I've heard people say, well, I don't like singing. Like I don't want to spend eternity singing. But what you're saying is, again, you and I were talking this morning that maybe there's going to be some kind of flip the switches, and we're going to desire that. Like we're going to want to go to church as often as we can, and see Jesus and praise Him. Like there's going to be some kind of switch where we really want that. Is that right? Maybe.
Yeah. No, it is. I think we're limiting God though when we limit worship to corporate worship and singing.
Yep.
God is bigger than that.
Hmm.
And so I do not believe that he will limit himself or limit us to sitting in chairs or standing with the arms raised or kneeling or laying prostrate before God in worship.
Hmm.
There will be constant singing in heaven.
Hmm.
There will be 24/7 worship in the New Jerusalem, this massive building where every tongue and tribe and nation people actually are singing together, worshiping, praising, holy, holy, holy. That worship will continue 24/7. I don't believe that that's the only thing we're going to do.
Yeah. Hmm.
We will live in worship 24/7, but not always in singing.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
So, did you see the question over in the margin?
Yeah, we got a question from our friend Nate. So I'll just read it here, Brent, and you can just expand and explain a little bit. So he says, how is a 1,400-mile cube going to work with the curvature of the Earth? You understand the question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Well, it'll work just fine. That's my answer. Yeah. It will work just fine. God can handle that. We won't feel the floor curving because it's over a 1,400-mile distance. But yeah, sometimes out in the country, you see a road take a little angle to make a correction for the curvature of the earth. God's going to take care of that. The good news for Nate is he won't even recognize that floor might be slightly curved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's still going to be on the earth, and we're going to have the big building. I think it's going to be literal. That's my opinion. It may not be, but that's my opinion. But yeah, great question and a pretty lame answer, all things considered. But God can pull that off. All of our floors are to a degree curved because of the curvature of the earth, but much less than over 1,400 miles. But it will be taken care of. Like, how do you think of that question, Nate? That's awesome.
Way to go, Nate. Thanks for your question.
It was great.
Yeah, well, I think it was a really good sermon, Brent. And again, it sort of makes me even more excited for heaven because, like, I like the idea of us being, again, whether I don't know if you and I will be able to visit this church again or this plot of land, be like, oh yeah, you and I used to do this thing on Thursdays, and that was fun. Or I don't know if the earth will be so different we won't recognize it, or you said it might even be a completely different earth, a different planet. We don't know, but the idea of it being a physical land where we can walk around and see creation, I think I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited to see whatever that looks like because we don't know. We have no idea. You've done a great job kind of guessing and pulling out verses here and there, but there's so much that we don't know. So
let me do a couple of things related to heaven that people have often asked me. Okay. One is they struggle with guilt because, truth be told, they're okay with staying here for a little while longer. They're not eager to go to this perfect place. Yeah. And there's a sense of, oh man, what's wrong with me? I must not love God enough because I'm actually wanting to climb a few more mountains. I want to see my kids grow up. I'd love to see my daughters get married. I'd love to. And so there's a sense of, I don't know, you kind of knock yourself because you think you're not spiritual. Yeah. My response to them, Matt, have you ever felt that, Matt? Like, yeah, heaven's going to be great, but I'm okay not going there yet. I got a few more dreams.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be sad if I didn't get to see Heidi get married or whatever. Yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm.
And I try to put people at ease. Often I say, well, if you've never tasted chocolate, you don't miss it. Mm-hmm. We could also say, if you've never experienced air conditioning, you don't miss it. So our great-grandparents, they never experienced air conditioning, and they were just perfectly happy without air conditioning. What's it like if you've never tasted chocolate for me to try to describe it? I say, well, Matt, it's generally kind of brownish, and it's got a sweet taste and it's got cocoa. Well, what's cocoa flavor? So you try and describe chocolate to someone who's never tasted chocolate. They tasted some sweetness, but not chocolate. Right. Well, we've experienced some sweetness of earth, but we've never tasted chocolate of heaven. And so we have a description that simply says it's a lot better. But honestly, we really enjoy the sweetness we can taste right now.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to live within these questions that say, well, yeah, I do trust by faith that it's going to be much, much better. And I do want to go there. But Paul himself struggled to know whether he should go to heaven or stay on earth. And there's some good reasons for me to stay on earth. Mm-hmm. I want to help build people. I want to lead my daughter to the Lord. I want to do all this stuff. And so to be caught between is okay. I think we have to, by faith, though, say, I trust that it's going to be great, and I'm ready, and I want to go there. And if it's today, great. And honestly, I have a few more dreams. I want to accomplish a few more things for the kingdom. I mean, it's okay to live in that tension.
Yeah. Yep.
Another question that people have sometimes asked, and here I'm going to go up to the edge of the cliff, and someone might push me off, but
I'm ready.
Can people in heaven see what's happening on earth?
I don't know. Tell us.
Well, again, these are opinions.
Right.
I don't want to disappoint people at funerals, and I never call people on this, Matt. When someone's at a funeral and they're talking about Grandpa and they say this, hey, Grandpa, and they look up. Right. Say, Grandpa, I know you're watching us, and you're always going to be here with us. I mean, that's in a sense, there's a degree that's a harmless thing to say. You're in the moment of grief. It's one of the ways you cope. To say, Grandpa, I know you're looking down on us. Okay.
But it's for them, kind of.
Yeah. But if you push that thing to its conclusion, it really doesn't. It's a house of cards that's going to crumble, Matt. And I don't want to destroy anyone's, understanding of this. But think about this, Matt. You don't want Grandpa staring at you when you're doing something you shouldn't do. Right. You don't want Grandpa or Grandma looking at you when you're off, not you, Matt, cussing in sexual immorality. You're looking at porn. You're lying to your wife. You're in a fight with your kids. We we naively imagine people in heaven observing us in our good moments, but we don't want them to observe us like your mom. You don't want your mom watching everything.
Yeah, well, or even just COVID and the racial stuff and the war and
Yeah.
I don't want to be watching that when I'm in heaven either, I don't think. But yeah, finish your thought.
And so, in my opinion, and I'm not going to go toe to toe with anyone on this.
Mm-hmm.
I personally can't wrap my mind around how anyone can be in heaven and watch the rebellion of their grandson, watch their granddaughter do some horrific things, or watch that bad experience, or see that, war or whatever, and still retain full joy in heaven. I think God alone can retain perfect joy and also witness the carnage of earth and sin. But I just find it difficult to see a way that I in heaven can remain in perfect joy and witness the carnage and corruption and sin of earth. And so I don't think we can see what's going on earth, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I think you're reading it there, Brent. We got another comment from our friend Daryl, so I'll just read it real quick. He had some good insight. He said, I kind of see it as a picture of the church coming down as a bride beautifully adorned for her husband. The cube, a picture of the Holy of Holies, God's dwelling place. He will dwell with us. And so I think you're spot on, Daryl. That's good. All right, Brett. Well, hey, we got a few minutes left here. Anything else you want to do about heaven or new heaven, new earth?
I'd say no. I think we ought to highlight what's coming up with the new series. Tell us about it. You can start, Matt.
Okay. Well, so we're starting a new series. It's called How to Family. Family is a verb here. And so we've been wanting to do kind of a family, a parenting, especially kind of a young family series for a while now. And so I think you kind of landed on looking at the life of David as an example of someone who was a really great leader, but maybe not the best dad, husband, family man. So we'll look at the story of David, and we're going to kind of go a little bit deeper specifically into parenting. But I know it's not just for, like, I'm a parent of a young daughter, right? But so it's for me, but it's also for, I think we're going to talk about what if you've got grown children who have, rebelled or whatever, or maybe you are a older adult who don't have a good relationship with your parents or your kids or your brother. It's just the messiness that family tends to lead to in all of our lives. Did I sum that up well? What are we talking about for the next few weeks?
You did well. King David is a wonderful example of a loyal follower of God. Mm-hmm. He is called a man after God's own heart. Yep. That does not mean he was perfect. He did some really bad things, but I believe he retained that title, a man after God's own heart, because he was quick to apologize, quick to try to make amends. He owned his junk. He had a series of failures. So we're going to talk about his passive parenting. That's where we're going to start on Sunday. Passive grandparenting. Trying to, it's interesting that you can be intimidated by a 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's true.
As a parent, parents can certainly be intimidated by a 13-year-old that rolls their eyes all the time. Yeah. You can be intimidated, insecure, and uncertain. We all are. I was talking to a dad last week, and he said, "Hey, I've got kid number 2, and I'm still not sure what I'm supposed to be doing." Right. So there's insecurity, there's uncertainty. And so we're going to start with, okay, what can we lock onto with some confidence? David was a passive parent. Yep. We're also going to enter into things like divided families. There was a 5-year period, Matt, yep, when King David didn't talk to his son Absalom. Mm-hmm. And there are so many divided families between adult children and parents, between siblings who haven't talked. We're going to talk about the family divide. We're going to talk about how to be a spiritual parent. And unfortunately, this man after God's own heart made some parenting and family mistakes that we can learn from. Yeah. And it also gives us hope, because when we fail, we know there's still hope.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a challenging series for me as I look back on my parenting and as I look at my current grandparenting. How do I do this thing? We're all learning on the go.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a very interesting series. A couple of things I'm really excited about. We're going to do a Wednesday workshop.
Yep.
So we have one of our first MBers, Matt Gallagher, is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and he is going to do a deep dive each Wednesday to follow up on that Sunday's topic.
Yep.
Explain that a little bit, where it's going to be, how it's going to work.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Matt's a great teacher. He helps with the M Life group that a lot of our young couples are involved with. So, yeah, Wednesday night, I think it starts at 6:30. He's going to do a time of teaching, and then to my understanding, there's time for Q&A too. And Matt is just brilliant. He's got great thoughts. And he's able to give really quick, really smart answers. So great for, again, if you're parents of whatever age your kids are, I think it's going to be really beneficial. It is in person in the worship center, but we're also going to be live streaming on our Facebook page. So if you are not really ready to come out yet, or maybe it's bedtime, you don't want to deal with kids going out, we'll be streaming live on our Facebook page, so you can watch there live on Wednesdays, or we'd love to have you in the room also. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really good.
So yeah, he'll follow up on passive parenting, on discipline, on divided family, and on spiritual parenting. Those are the 4 topics. It's going to be great.
Yep.
The second thing that I'm excited about, because here at First MB, we want to be practical and relevant. We believe the Bible is there to help us. We want to be a significant help. So the second thing we're doing is AMA, Ask Me Anything. And give us a sneak preview of this one, Matt. This is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. So the idea here is we're going to try to pair younger couples, 20s and 30s, with an older couple in their 40s, 50s, or 60s. And the deal is the older couple is going to take the younger couple out to eat, and they're paying. So for the younger people, it's a free date night for you and your spouse. And First MB is offering even childcare reimbursement. So it's 100% free to the younger couple. And it's just a chance for you to ask questions about marriage or parenting or finances or career or whatever. And the people who are kind of the older couple, mentor, whatever you want to call them, they're not necessarily experts. They're just people who have been a couple steps ahead of these younger people. So it's, hey, here's what we did with our kids. Here's what worked well. Here's what crashed and burned. Don't do this, but maybe give this a shot. It's just a time for some practical one-on-one help for the younger families to get some advice. And I think my wife Tilly and I are going to do it because we're right in the thick of parenting, and I know that we feel like we need some help. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope a bunch of young couples do it because I think it's a really good opportunity.
So yeah, each week there'll be an opportunity for young couples to just sign up, and we'll communicate with them and make sure they're comfortable and get them connected with a more experienced older couple. It's Matt, you've shared frequently, and I know that millennials and Gen Z, they get thrown under the bus far too often. But they really are wide open to wanting advice. And not surprisingly, there's just an understandable hesitancy to go to mom and dad. There's just a safety in going to another couple. But your generation, they are eager to ask for help, and they want advice. And so we're trying to provide this AMA, Ask Me Anything. So the experienced older couple says, okay, we're here. We're going to be honest. What do you want to know? We might not have the right answer, the best answer, but we're going to give you our experience. I think it's going to be great. Plus, it's a free meal.
Yeah. Hey, free date night for the young couples. Yeah. Well, Brett, like you said, there are some things, it's just awkward to talk to your parents about. But another thing that I think we need to remember too is that not everyone my age, 20s and 30s, have parents that they can ask these questions to. Like there are people in my life who, if they asked their parents for advice, they would not get good advice. They would get and their parents they're not Christians, or they claim to be, but they're not living that way. I know a lot of friends who are in that boat. And so again, these people that we're going to be preparing people with, they're not experts, but they are God-following Christians who are doing their best to live a godly life. And those are the kind of people that I think people my age could get some advice from. So I think it's going to be good. And we should say all of that. There's a webpage on our website, firstcommunitychurch.org/family. All the links are all right there, and we'll talk about it on Sunday in the next few weeks. So we'd love for you guys to dive in on that. There's lots of good things coming. All right, Brent, well, we're out of time. Anything else you want to squeeze in today before we wrap up?
No, just keep working on the parenting thing, the family thing. Churches and cities and schools and communities are only as healthy as the families. And so we want to do everything we can to resource families.
Yep.
And we're so proud of our young adults in our church, and we want to do everything we can to encourage them. So I think it's going to be a great series.
Yep, me too. It's going to be good. Sunday mornings are going to be great. Looking forward to Wednesday nights with Matt and Lori, and then AMA. And hey, we'll keep doing the rewind too. So if you have questions, we'll toss Brent all your parenting questions too. So come loaded next week.
That's a bad day.
It'll be good. All right, Brent. Well, hey, thanks for your time today. Grateful for you being with us.
Mutual. Thanks, everybody. Keep following Jesus.
That's right. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. We'll see you next time, and hope to see you on Sunday. See you later.
Thanks for joining us today. Matt and Pastor Brent go live on the First MB Church Facebook page every Thursday at noon. If you can't watch live, the archive is available anytime on Facebook, YouTube, or the First MB app. If you prefer to listen on the go, you can also subscribe to the podcast by searching for the Midweek Rewind in your favorite podcast provider. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Midweek Rewind.